Talking today with Mr. Edward Stolt of Wyoming, Michigan. The interviewer is James Smither of Grand Valley State University. Now, Mr. Stolt, can you begin by telling us a little bit about yourself? For instance, where and when were you born?
Born January 13, 1919.
And where were you born?
Bayshore, Michigan.
All right.
In Charlevoix County.
Okay. Now, what did your family do then?
Well, my dad was a farmer and sort of a barn builder.
Okay. And then did you stay in that area then while you were growing up, or did you move?
They moved from there in 29 to Lansing. We was down there about 2 years. My mother died, and then I was with my uncle for a couple of years, and then we moved back up to Bayshore again.
Now, was your father able to keep his farm, or
No, he lost the farm, but when his dad died, and part of it was in his inheritance.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Now, did you finish high school?
No, I never went to high school.
8th grade?
The 8th grade. Yeah.
And what did you do after you finished 8th grade?
Well, I went to Greenville to where my mother's brother was, and I stayed there for quite a while, for about 3 years. And then I went back up at Tusky, and from there I went into the Army.
Now, before you went in the Army, were you doing farm work or other kind of work?
Yeah, more or less farm work. Yeah.
Now, why did you join the Army?
Well, I knew I'd be drafted, so I was the right age. So I thought, well, I might as well go first as last.
Okay. Now, when did you enlist?
When?
Yeah.
In March in 1941.
All right. Now, when you enlisted, did you think you were going to get into a war?
No.
Okay, but you knew there was a draft, and so you...
Oh, yes.
So what was the advantage to enlisting rather than waiting to be drafted?
Well, if you're drafted, you'd be in for 3 years, and you enlisted, you was in for 1.
Mm-hmm. At least that's what they told you then.
Yeah.
All right. Now, where did they send you for training?
Went to Oklahoma.
All right.
Fort Sill, Oklahoma.
All right. Now, that's the artillery school there, right?
Yeah.
All right. And had you ever taken a long trip before?
No.
Okay. So what was that train ride like?
It was quite a long ride, it seemed to me at that time. Yeah.
Now, did the train stop a lot? Could you get off the train, or did you just stay on
I
it?
don't think I got off the train. I don't remember, but no, I don't think we got off on the train.
All right. And so it took you a couple of days to get out there?
Yeah, just about. Maybe not quite, but close to it.
All right. Now, what did Fort Sill look like? What was there when you got there?
What was it look like?
Yeah, what did Fort Sill look like? Yeah.
Oh, well, they just had tents up.
Mm-hmm.
Wooden floor and tents up down there in rolls.
All right. And what kind of basic training did you do? What sorts of things were you doing there?
Well, at first we was driving trucks, big trucks and little ones, and then I went into field communication.
Mm-hmm. Was that radios and...
No, telephone.
Okay. Yeah. And what kind of things were you training for?
Oh, gosh, I don't know how to hook up a thing out in the field, you know. You just, because you was hook up and unhooked and gone and moved all the time.
Okay. Now, did you have to do marching and all of that kind of thing, the regular basic training stuff?
Oh, yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
And how easy or hard was that for you?
How what?
How easy was the basic training? I mean, was it...
Oh, it wasn't bad.
Okay. How did the drill sergeants treat you?
The what?
How did the drill sergeants behave?
Oh, I thought they would be all right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now, at the time you were doing this, we were not at war yet. Now, were you still at Fort Sill when Pearl Harbor happened?
No. I was there for 13 weeks and then went to Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri.
Okay.
And that's where I was in Missouri when Pearl Harbor.
All right. Now, what were you doing at Leonard Wood?
Well, first I started out in field in communication. And of course, then I got out of that. Simply because one of the officers had a fellow that wanted that job.
And so yeah.
But then I went driving the colonel, and that worked out pretty good.
All right. Now, were you assigned to a unit by then? Were you in your battalion yet, or were you still just a trainee?
No, we was in battalion then. We was through training, through that.
Now, what battalion were you with?
Four.
Is that the one on your service record there?
Yeah, what did I say? Four.
Like a
Four.
496 or?
I can't remember that name.
Why don't you? Let's take a look at that.
I don't know if it's on here.
Up on here. All right. Well, we do have that in our paperwork here. First battery looks like 496th. No, 949th. That's
Yeah.
it. 949th Field Artillery Battalion. All right.
949,
Okay.
right.
Now, you said you were driver for the colonel?
Yeah.
So you drove his Jeep? Was that?
No, I had the bigger command car.
Okay. Now, can you describe the colonel? About how old was he? Was he a veteran?
Yeah, he was a veteran. He probably was about 35 at that time, I think.
So he'd been in the Army for a while, but he's still a little too young to have been in World War I then.
Yeah, right.
All right. Now, aside from driving the colonel around, did you have other jobs there? Did you get other training?
Well, driving the colonel around was in action when we was always going on reconnaissance up front looking for position.
Okay.
And yeah, well.
All right. Well, now, do you remember how you heard? Do you remember how you heard about Pearl Harbor? Where you were or what was happening?
When that happened, we was in Lebanon, Missouri. My buddy and I, we was in there celebrating. And the word was we were supposed to go back to that. It was on late Saturday, I think. Well, we didn't go back till late Sunday. But everything, that's the way it was then.
Now, when you got back to camp then, after we found out about the attack, did anything change in terms of the training or anything else?
No.
You just kept doing the same kind of things?
Kept doing the same thing.
All right. Now, what kinds of things could you do when you went off base? I mean, when you went into town or that kind of thing, what was there to do?
Oh, well, most time they go to town and just drink beer.
Right.
But I wasn't too much of a drinker. I couldn't drink that much. But that's about all there was to do.
Did they have a movie theater or anything like that?
Oh yeah, we went to a few movies, yeah.
Now, did they bring USO shows through?
Huh?
Did the USO come to Leonard Wood or to Fort Sill? Did you see anything like that?
Not too much of them. I never saw too much of them.
Okay. Now, how long did they have you at Leonard Wood?
Huh?
How long were you at Leonard Wood?
We was there, I think, a little over 3 years.
3 years?
Yep.
All right. And were you working for the same colonel that whole time?
Yep.
All right. So why didn't they ship you out?
I don't know. We was there almost 3 years. From there, we went to California desert. So we thought we was going to the Pacific.
Right.
But after we got through there, they shipped it clear to North Carolina. Then from there, we went across to England.
All right. Now, what port did you leave from? When you went to England, what port did you sail out from?
Sail out from?
Yeah, with Newport News or
I don't
Baltimore?
know. Right in London, right from London.
No, where did you leave from? Where did you leave the United States from?
Oh, I don't know what, someplace in New York.
Okay. Now, you out of New York. Now, what kind of ship were you on?
We went across on the Queen Elizabeth.
All right. And what kind of accommodations did you have? Were you packed in with a bunch of guys, or?
It was crowded.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But between the cots, there's just about room enough to walk.
Mm-hmm.
Way I heard that there was about 13,000 on that ship.
Wow. Now, what time of year was it that you were crossing?
This early summer.
Early summer of 1944. Now, had D-Day already happened by then?
No.
Okay. So it might be in May then or something like that.
Oh, yeah, we was in early, because we hit Normandy the 20th of June.
Okay. Now, were you attached to a particular Army Corps or Army at that time, or were you just an independent battalion?
We was in the 3rd Army, but we was a detached outfit.
Mm-hmm. Now, can you, let's see, tell us a little bit about your stay in England first. How long do you think you were in England?
I don't know, 6 weeks to 2 months.
Okay. And where were you camped?
I don't know.
Okay. Was it just out in the countryside someplace?
Yeah.
And did you get to see much of England while you were there, or did you just stay in camp? Okay. Now, were you in camp when the Normandy invasion started? So on D-Day, were you just in England?
Yeah, we was in England, yeah.
Okay. Now, what did you find out about that? Once the invasion started, were you learning what was happening?
You didn't realize much of anything until you hit Normandy.
All right.
Then it's quite a surprise.
Why was Normandy a surprise for you?
You couldn't imagine what the beach looked like.
Mm-hmm. Did they land you on Omaha Beach?
Omaha Beach, right.
All right. And that's 2 weeks after D-Day. So
Yep.
what did Omaha Beach look like then? Was there still a lot of wreckage there, or?
Oh, man, all around the fields, there was all kinds of German equipment burned up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you just couldn't imagine. If you'd haven't seen it, you couldn't imagine really what it looked like.
Now, was there still a lot of wreckage of landing craft and American vehicles and things, or had they cleaned that stuff up?
No, well, too much of that, no.
Okay. Do you remember seeing, they built an artificial harbor.
They what?
They built an artificial harbor at Omaha Beach, a thing called the Mulberry.
I never saw that.
Didn't notice that. How did you, did you land in a small landing craft or a big LST, or?
Oh, I don't know, the boats where they open up
Yeah.
and then you drive through the water.
Right, one of those little
Yeah.
landing craft, yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So they're still landing you straight on the beach. And then once you landed on the beach, where did you go?
We didn't go very far for a few days.
Mm-hmm.
But
Then how soon did your unit get into action?
it wasn't very long shortly after that, yeah.
Okay. And what do you remember about the artillery battery actually, or your battalion actually going into combat? I mean, what happened when you started to get involved?
Didn't seem to me there was too much happened until a little later when you really got into it.
So what were you doing? What was your job at that point when you were in Normandy?
Well, whenever they moved, I was always leading the convoy.
Mm-hmm.
And the colonel was there and was always going on reconnaissance and looking for a new position up in front.
All right. Did you sometimes go out in front of where our infantry was? I mean, did you get really close to the Germans?
Yeah, they shipped us ahead of the infantry one time under gunfire.
Mm-hmm.
And then we got caught off a little bit for a day or so, but...
So you got cut off, so you and the colonel were trapped someplace? Or?
We got cut off on it just for a day or so. They said we moved up. You move up, and then evidently they must have known they got us cut off just for a day. But see, my vehicle, we had a big radio across the whole back in the back seat. We could call any place, and you just call for some reinforcements right away. You just wait and see what happens.
Okay. Well, you said when you were cut off, what were you cut off by? Was it artillery fire or machine gun fire or?
Well, we were just cut off from everything.
Or you just couldn't find the other people or?
No. Well, because we had a radio, we'd call back right away.
Right. Now, was that still in Normandy then when that happened? Was that in Normandy when that happened? Where you got separated, or was that later?
I don't exactly know where. I think it was in France someplace.
Yeah, somewhere in France. Okay. Now, what do you remember about just the countryside in Normandy? What was the land or the terrain like?
More or less like most any land around here. Only thing is, the houses and the farm was all usually together. A lot of the farms are right next to town.
Did you notice that the hedgerows that divide? Did you notice the hedgerows that divided all the farms?
The hedgerows on all fields. Yeah, that's where a lot of the Germans would hide in those hedgerows.
Now, when you were going out with, the colonel or whatever to kind of position things and so forth, was part of that to figure out where to sight your guns and that kind of thing?
They were?
Well, was part of your job to help figure out where to put your guns or where to place the batteries, or?
Well, that the colonel and them will all decide that, but that's what we went out for, where to look to where they would go to put them.
Right. Now, while you were in Normandy, do you remember seeing much of the civilian population?
Yes.
Okay. And what impression did you have of the French people there?
Oh, the French people, they were friendly. Oh, yeah.
And what kind of conditions were they living in at that point? Were their houses bombed out?
Some of them weren't very good.
And did you have any French people who were working in your camps or helping out with anything, or did they just stay to themselves?
Well, more or less take care of themselves, yeah.
Now, during the Normandy campaign, one of the things that happened was they had some very, very large artillery bombardments, and some of them also involved the big bombers and all of that. Now, was your unit involved in some of these really large efforts, like at Saint-Lô or?
Well, we might have been. I know one time we was sitting there, we did shoot quite a few shells. I remember they was doing quite a bit of shooting at one time. And most definitely, the Germans usually would hide in the woods, which was the wrong thing to do with the artillery. Because they put fuses in there where they would go off as quick as they hit the trees. So a foxhole didn't do much good.
Right, because things come down from above, yeah.
See. Yeah.
Now, while you were in Normandy, did the Germans ever shoot at you? Did you come under bombardment or air attack at all?
Oh, yeah, we got scraped twice with a plane. And we would shoot on a reconnaissance once with a tank 88, but we got all of that.
But the Germans were not using artillery against you or against your batteries?
There was only really they were against us, but there was only one time we was up where we could, at night we sat there on the road, moving up because they was bombing up there, the infantry.
Right.
We had to just sit there most of the night till they got through. But that's really about the worst parts that we had.
All right. Now, eventually, the Americans break out of Normandy. They get out of eventually, the Americans got through the hedgerows and they got out into open country, and they moved across northern France.
Yeah.
And then what do you remember about that, crossing northern France in the summer?
Oh, we never had too much trouble in advancing.
Right.
Too much. We had a few little things, but I don't know. Some people, they were nervous, but it didn't seem to bother me too much. I don't know why.
Well, at that stage, at least, the Germans were not doing a lot of fighting back. They were
No.
mostly leaving.
After we got in there long ways, they was moving back so fast we couldn't keep up with them.
Right. And then when your unit got across northern France, then where did you run into the Germans again?
Well, we didn't run into too many of them after we got through France. The only other big thing was at the Battle of the Bulge. We were sitting up there.
Okay.
I was called up to the colonel's office, and our outfit was supposed to go up there, and they had a time they had to be there. And the colonel said, you can't take the whole outfit up there that length of time. So they called me up. I don't know why they picked me. I had to take 4 guns up past Stone. But they returned her before I got there. They turned her before I got there, which I didn't mind at all.
So, what was your unit doing sort of before the Battle of the Bulge? Were you just kind of staying in one place and not doing much?
Oh, well, I was moving a little bit, but it's slow. But there for quite a while, there wasn't much doing.
Right.
In fact, before the Battle of the Bulge, we couldn't figure out where all the Germans were. And I think they were just pulling them off and sending them up there.
Right.
Because it was a surprise. They didn't know that. And we didn't know. You couldn't find the Germans.
Right. Now, do you remember what the weather was like then?
Well, that was pretty nice. Well, the Bulge, that was in December.
Right.
It was cold.
And what kind of accommodations did you have? Were you still in tents, or did you have houses, or?
Well, you'd find a lot of empty houses, and then sometimes we'd, in France, a lot of times the cow barn was right out of the kitchen door. And there's times we slept in a barn, there's times when it's cold, I even went and slept with the cows.
Now, did you have to spend nights in foxholes and that kind of thing?
Just one night I kept in a foxhole. They got us ahead of the infantry, and there was a few Germans. There wasn't too many, though. But somebody kept coming along. I was sleeping in the vehicle, and they said, well, get up, Ed, the Germans are coming. Yeah, I didn't pay much attention to it until I could hear and see those traces going over. Then I got in my foxhole, and I never stuck my head out.
So,
You don't give your position away.
right. But did somebody else come up and chase the Germans away, or did the Germans? Yeah, well, it wasn't your job to be shooting at them anyway.
No, well, besides, you don't shoot first. You let them shoot first, and then you know where they're at.
Right.
So you learn these things. You shoot, then they know where you are at.
Now, so basically, even during the Battle of the Bulge, most of the time you kind of stayed in the same area. Did you go up into Belgium very far, or did you just stay in France?
No. I went up there and then was back. I don't remember if the outfit came up there or if I had to just went back to them. Yeah.
All right. And then when did you start moving into Germany? Was that in March or February or?
Oh, no, it was before that. September, probably in October.
Okay, so you were in the Saar.
Because,
you were in the Saar.
Because I got a mail from France for the liberation of France, and that liberation went until the latter part of September. After that, then they didn't get no medal for the liberation of France.
Right. Yeah. Well, you were in France then, but then when did you go into Germany? You think you were based in Germany before the Bulge, or?
Oh yes, long before the Bulge.
So
yeah.
were you in the Saar?
So the Battle of Bulge was the last end of it.
Well, that was December, but the war goes on until the beginning of May.
Well, yeah, there wasn't too much on after that, because you just couldn't find them after that.
Do you remember crossing the Rhine River?
Huh?
Do you remember crossing the Rhine River?
No, I don't. The Rhine River, does that go through Metz?
No, that's the Moselle.
Huh?
That's the Moselle, I think. That's the Moselle River. But the Rhine River, Rhine River was between France and Germany mostly.
Oh yeah, we went across, but I don't remember when that was. Yeah.
Okay. Now, while you were still with the unit, while the war was still going on, did you ever get a chance to go on liberty to go to Paris or something like that?
Oh yes, I got a chance. After the war, I got in Paris one weekend. Yeah.
And what did that look like to you?
It didn't look too bad because they didn't bomb Paris too much.
Right, right. And what was there to do? What did you do while you were there?
Oh, I don't know. There was a lot of bars and different things to see, the Eiffel Tower and different things, yeah. And the cathedral there. Oh, there was different things you could see there, yeah.
And did they have places for you to stay?
Huh?
Could you stay in hotels?
Yeah, we had place to stay, yeah. And place to eat all the time while I was there, yeah.
Okay. Now, did your unit go, were you part of the occupation of Germany at the end of the war?
Oh.
So where did your unit go once the Germans surrendered? Did you stay in France or?
Well, after the war, we was in Normandy until we was shipped back here.
Okay. And so what were you doing? I mean, you were discharged at the very end of 1945, so you're probably still in Europe for a few months after the war ends.
Yeah, just a few months, yeah. We weren't too after long.
Right. So what did you do then?
Just nothing. Yeah, just visit with some of the people around there.
Now, do you have pretty much the same guys you served with all through the war? Did your unit kind of stay together?
Oh yeah, our outfit pretty much stayed together. See, our outfit, whole outfit was in the Army all for a long time. And so sometimes they got bad, they wanted to take some of us out and send them to the infantry. It was short, but the colonel said he wouldn't do that. He said he's trained these people for over 3 years, and he don't want any rookies.
Right.
Because at one time, we moved in a place. At night, we always had what they call a bed check Charlie, and he'd just fly around.
It was a German plane that would just fly around?
He'd fly around and he's flying around for you to fire at him. Then he knows where your position is.
Right.
Well, there was an outfit just like ours that was about a half a mile from us. They shot at him. In the morning, they was half wiped out. So that's why they say, you don't shoot until they shoot at you.
Right. And it probably also helps not to have any rookies either.
Right.
Because they're the ones who might shoot.
Yeah, because the rookies wouldn't know any better.
Now, did you ever see any of the really high-ranking officers? Did you ever see Patton? Did you ever see Patton give one of his talks or something like that?
I seen him going down the road once. That's the only time I ever saw him.
All right. And then while you were in Europe, did the USO ever come to your camps? I mean, were there...
I think I seen him a couple times.
Do you remember anything about them? Did they have a band or anything else like that?
Because usually they were back a little bit further.
Now, what do you remember about the men you served with? Some of the guys that were... Was there kind of a particular subunit that you were with, or a group of guys that you normally would bunk with?
Well, I had a friend. He was a mechanic. He was back a little bit. When we was here in the States, he and I was always out on a weekend together. In fact, I got out, I married a girl, and he got out a month later, and he married his sister. So then there we were, all the rest of... We was friends until he passed away here about 10 years ago. Oh yeah, we had different friends, a lot of friends. Putting everybody that was in, all through our training was through there. I don't think we lost over 4 or 5 men in our outfit,
Now,
which is pretty lucky.
yeah. Now, do you remember where the men were from? Were a lot of them from the same part of the country, or were they from all over?
Oh, no, a lot of them, well, when I went from Oklahoma to the Army, they were the National Guard out of Detroit. And my friend there, he was from Albion, Michigan. And there was a couple of guys from Grand Rapids.
But then the rest of the unit was from all different places, or?
Yeah.
Now, once you finally got to leave Europe, do you remember what kind of ship you were in?
When we come back?
Yeah.
Well, I understand that there was 1,200 people on it coming back.
And what kind of ship was it? Was it just a troop ship?
It wasn't a very big ship.
And what was the trip like? Was the weather good or was it bad? Because it's late
Well,
in the
we
year.
run into a little storm. The waves washed the deck a little bit. But it didn't bother me until I got off and I got land sick.
You got land sick?
Yes. I mean, I tell you, you get land sick, it's bad. You're sick.
How long did it take for you to get your land legs back?
Oh, probably a day or a day and a half.
All right. Now, once you're discharged, what did you do after you were out of the Army?
Well, we got unemployment for a while. I just didn't do anything for probably 2 months. Then I got a job working in a handling equipment outfit, making skids and different stuff for Oldsmobile. Lansing was a lot of it. One was making a pickle troughs for somebody in Chicago. So I did that for a while. Then I went into carpenter.
I mean, like working in houses and things like that?
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, I worked in houses for a few years, but then I went into commercial.
So building large buildings and contracting and that kind of
We
thing?
built a lot of schools and nursing homes and offices, yeah.
Now, to look back on the whole thing now, how do you think your time in the service affected you? Did it change the way you looked at the world, or did you learn things you wouldn't have learned otherwise?
Well, when I was in the Army, I learned to keep my mouth shut. That's why I never got very far. Because if you know something, and the sergeant don't know it, you don't tell him what you know. If he wants to do it some way, you do it his way. And if it's wrong, it's wrong. You do it anyway.
Do you think you took anything else out of the experience? Did you learn anything else?
Oh, I don't think so.
Are there other events or things that you remember about your time in the Army that you haven't mentioned to us here?
Do I have a what?
Other stories or other particular things that you remember about being there?
You want to hear some funny things?
Sure.
Oh, well, the time we got ahead of the infantry, the mess sergeant, he had to be on guard because they're barred. And it was one of those nights it was pitch black. Well, in the morning, you know, you have a Lister bag, you know, that it was less than half full. He was on guard. He told the guy to advance, and it didn't move, so he shot 2 holes in it.
Oh.
And then I was telling you I had to take the guns up to the bag down. Well, they surrendered before I got there. So when I got back, everybody says, the Germans heard Ed was coming, so they give up.
Right.
You know, some of those things are funny. It wasn't funny, but they make it sounds funny afterwards.
Right.
See? But yeah, it took that sergeant a while to live that down. But there is, well, you had to have a little fun sometime. So, but yeah. But I don't know, I know some of the people were nervous, but I don't know, Kant never did figure it out why it never seemed to bother me. Mm-hmm. But a lot of those things there, you know, you see, that stuff don't leave your mind. Mm-hmm. You can still, you look at it and see it. And the people back here, I don't think they realized what it was like. It's kind of hard to explain, too.
Was that hard when you came back to the States? Was it hard to explain to people what was going on, or did you not try?
I didn't try to explain anything to people. I might have tried once, and I don't know, you couldn't get anywhere, so, hey, best thing, keep your mouth shut.
Would you talk to other veterans about it, or the?
Oh, yeah.
Well, we appreciate your taking the time to talk to us today, because your story goes into a record that we're going to preserve and keep and let people see for a long time to come. And so little bits and pieces of things will tell us a lot more than we knew otherwise.
Yeah,
so.
Well, I don't know, sometimes we like this, you know. In fact, you know, when you hit Normandy, I looked at Normandy and I said, oh my gosh, Ed, this is the end. You go as far as you can go. And that's what was in my mind. So maybe that's why it didn't bother me, because I said, hey, you go, when you're gone, that's all.
You decided not to worry about it.
Right.
Basically. Yeah, that makes sense. All right. Well, thank you for coming in and talking to us
you're
today.
welcome.